Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Crimson and in this video we are going to be continuing and finishing our look through of the Warhammer 40,000 Astra Militarum 10th edition Codex. So let's just dive straight into it. Also, I did forget to mention in part 1 that this is the 10th edition Codex and that all of the codexes I will be covering are for 10th edition, since Warhammer is currently in 10th edition. So where we left off was here. By the way, I forgot to mention this in the video. However, this is what all of the different Krieg uniform types look like. The uniforms are based on their regiments that they are currently in and the terrain that they are fighting in. So we have green, blue, gray, black, and a little bit of light brown. The top there is your standard infantry Krieg, while as the bottom there is your grenadiers. Again, the grenadiers are the kind of special forces of the Krieg, whereas the top row is just your average corpsman. So, yeah, I should have included this video in the video itself, so I apologize if this is a little jarring for me to just insert it into the video. But yeah, that's it. So let's get back to it. So let's start on the war gear and the weapons of the Astra Militarum. But before we start with the reading, I just want to say that this is an incredible piece of art here of a Leman Russ. I believe this is a Vanquisher based on the end of the cannon. The Vanquisher is the anti-tank variant of the Leman Russ. The Leman Russ has a bunch of different variants for all kinds of uses, but this is the dedicated anti-tank one, and one of my personal favorites. I have about 4 of them, which is embarrassing, but anyway, let's get into the reading. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit just so you guys can see the text a little bit clearer. However, I am actually reading it from a picture I took on my iPad, just so you guys can actually see the text without me having to pull the book forward to read. So, weapons of the Astra Militarum. The weapons and equipment of the Astra Militarum regiments, while varied in vintage and pattern, remain broadly similar in overall form and function across humanity's worlds. The specifications to which these weapons are made are ancient indeed, legacies of a distant past that have been in production for thousands of years due to their functionality, reliability, and effectiveness. So yeah, this is just another bit of lore about the Imperium as a whole, about how technology has essentially stagnated, that, you know, these guys have been using the same weapons for 10,000 years. Now, these are still very good weapons, but there hasn't been any improvements other than, you know, slight modifications and different types of lasguns, for example. Anyway, let's continue. Humanity's superstitious mistrust of technological innovation has long precluded the development of new weapons. Even the slightest alteration in the manufacturing process of a gunner blade can invite the Adeptus Mechanicus. Thus, the Astra Militarum are reliant on a suite of weapons that have served humanity for millennia. Some are ubiquitous throughout the armies of the Imperium, with countless manufacturers producing them non-stop. Other patterns of weapons and equipment are far more scarce, with only a handful of forge worlds possessing the STC templates, alloys, or rare chemicals required to fabricate them. The standard issue weapons. The most commonly issued weapon in the ranks of the Astra Militarum is the lasgun. Cheap and simple to manufacture, this reliable energy weapon can be operated in even the most adverse conditions with little loss of function. Hundreds, if not thousands, of patterns of lasgun exist across the galaxy. The soldiers of most Cadian regiments commonly bear the M36 las rifle, originally manufactured on Cantriel and renowned for its robustness. The Catachan jungle fighters extol the merits of the Mark IV las carbine, a shorter and more mobile weapon, perfect for close quarters engagements. Other common versions of the weapon include the Mars and Armageddon patterns and the sought-after triple foul pattern. Even more exotic and intricately wrought heirloom of the weapons of the Vostrian firstborn regiments of the Akatan pattern Mark IV, which valued by the Elysian drop troopers for its compactness and capability of short range. The lasguns utilized by the Astra Militarums are also varied in origin as the regiments who wield them. So basically every different type of regiment or planetary faction of the Imperial Guard have a slightly different version of the lasgun. It's still the same thing, but just slight alterations to it. Weapons with solid ammunition, such as the autogun, are also prevalent in many regiments, though not in the same numbers. Those fighting forces raised from the most primitive or resource-starved worlds can even utilize weapons as archaic as black powder muskets. Infantry squads such as Cadian shock troopers are often provided with at least a single powerful portable weapon in order to enhance their firepower. Flamers project streams of burning promethium and are particularly feared by the enemy, making their bearers prime targets for snipers. So essentially, the snipers focus on these guys to shoot their tanks and make them explode, which is, kind of funny. Grenade launchers fire fragmentation grenades for anti-personal use or armor-piercing crack grenades that are capable of penetrating the armor of tanks and transports. Melter guns fire shimmering beams of thermal energy that can turn metal into molten slag and are often issued to troopers expected to encounter tanks, fortifications, rampaging monsters, or heavily armored infantry. Now, it didn't say this in the lasgun section, but there is a another variation of the lasgun, which is a highly powered variant that is utilized by the special forces troopers of each regiment, such as the Tempestus Scions or Cadian Carskin or the Death Curve Creek Grenadiers, and that is the Hell Gun, which is essentially a supercharged las gun. It has like multiple power settings, but the only drawback to it is that whereas the lasgun can be wielded normally with, you only having to replace multiple ammo packs or charge packs, the Hell gun has to have a wired connection to a piece of equipment to charge it. That is how much energy it uses, but it is extremely powerful and easily the most powerful variant of the lasgun. Personally, I use it for all of my Death Corps Grenadiers, not just because it's effective, but it also looks really cool. These troopers who demonstrate exceptional marksmanship ability may be rewarded for their skill with the issue of a long las. These specially designed lasguns possess lengthened barrels and attached optical sights that greatly extend the shooter's effective kill range. The long las can be further enhanced with the use of hot-shot laser power packets, while these rare and temperamental power packets provide increased charge and therefore stopping power. That's kind of similar to the Hell gun that I was talking about. They are expensive to manufacture and prone to spontaneous combustion, which is a common thread with the Imperial's weapons. Where was I? Spontaneous combustion if handled indelicately. If fired too frequently from a single weapon, the extreme heat of each shot can also warp the barrel, rendering the gun useless. Other forms of sniper rifles are also utilized by the Imperial Guard, from bolt-action weapons that fire conventional bullets to needle sniper rifles that shoot sharp upper darts filled with potent neurotoxins. So what I find really interesting about that is that while a lot of people think of Warhammer with, the laser rifles of the Astra Militarum, they still do utilize bullets. They're not always as effective and definitely don't have the damage effect of the las gun, but nonetheless, the bullets also have the upside, being much more difficult to see coming and a lot quieter and stuff like that. So, okay, next up, cavalry weapons. Although the massed armies of the Astra Militarum contain many technological terrors, the use of cavalry remains prevalent. Despite the low-tech nature of these units, the psychological impact of cavalry charge upon an opponent remains undimmed by the passage of millennia. The Imperium's million worlds boast many societies, some of which are known to produce incredibly skilled riders. These troopers are equipped with a range of weapons to aid them in varied roles. That includes scouting, line breaking, or skirmishing. The steeds that the warriors ride upon vary from flesh and blood creatures to genetically and cybernetically enhanced monstrosities. The Krieg utilized the quote-unquote genetically and, I'm not sure if cybernetically, but definitely genetically enhanced monstrosities. The horses are bred to be able to sustain extended exposure to chemicals and stuff, and they also are wary breathers, just like the riders. The Death Riders of Krieg and the Attilan Rough Riders, two of the Imperial military's most famed cavalry units, are outfitted with combinations of lances and sabers. When utilized by charging cavalry, frag-tipped impact lances are exceptionally effective weapons. The tips of these lances are fitted with a detonation device that explodes on impact with a target. The tip of the lance is angled in such a way that the resulting explosion showers the target with shrapnel while leaving the rider unharmed. Some lances can also be fitted with a melter lance head that, when triggered, are capable of burning through the reinforced armor of a tank. Attilan Rough Riders carry several spare lance heads, enabling them to conduct multiple charges against different targets before they withdraw to rearm. Most riders, regardless of their world of origin, usually carry a cavalry sword as well. These blades commonly take the form of specially designed power sabers. The curved blades of these weapons serve to concentrate the force of the blow and help ensure the weapon slices deeply into armor and flesh and slides free without snagging. So that's really interesting. So essentially the Krieg Rough Riders, and same for the Attilan Rough Riders, are really good at taking out enemy tanks and armor, as it says that they have these lances that are either tipped with frag grenades or tipped with melter tips to burn holes through the armor. So what might happen is, you might have one rider hit a tank with a melter tip to burn a hole into the armor, and then you'll have the rider behind him jam his frag-tipped lance into that hole and explode the tank. These lances, I usually have like 4 or 5 crack grenades attached to it. If you've ever seen those pictures of like World War II grenades, but like there's like 5 of them in a bunch, that is essentially what is on the explosive lances. So really cool. And the sabers are a nice touch. They are essentially used for cutting down infantry, and very similar to real life, the use of the curved swords are great against cutting down foot units while on horseback. Anyway, let's continue. Specialized cavalry units are often skilled to utilize long-ranged weapons while remaining mounted. The steppe warriors who make up the Attilan cavalry are said to be born into the saddle. When fighting against densely packed infantry, they use their steeds to move into advantageous firing positions before opening up with long-barreled las weapons. So the Attilan cavalry, we kind of touched on them earlier, but in the same way that the Krieg are based on World War I kind of French or German soldiers, and the Cadians are more of a depiction of the modern military that we have today. The Attilans are very reminiscent of the Mongol Empire, so their design, the horses and all that suit that picture, which is a really interesting design to essentially have, ancient Mongols in the 41st millennium. Next topic, heavy weapons and artillery. When defending a position, the massed infantry of the Imperial Guard are lent greater killing power by the scorching energy beams, thudding barrages of explosive rounds, and flesh-melting flame blasts of heavy weapons teams. The weapons operated by the heavy weapons squads include anti-armor guns such as the las cannons, short-range indirect fire platforms such as mortars, and devastating anti-infantry weapons such as heavy bolters, autocannons, or flame projectors. Each squad typically brings 3 weapons to battle, and each weapon is typically crewed by 2 soldiers. One trooper operates the weapon, while the other acts as a loader and ammunition carrier. The heavy weapon squads employed by the Death Corps of Krieg forgo the second crew member, reducing their mobility. They are, however, accompanied to battle by a dedicated fire coordinator who direct the fire of the gunners under their command with absolute precision. There are occasions when even crew-mounted when even crew-mounted heavy weapons do not provide enough killing power to shatter the enemy line. In these situations, more powerful artillery may be called into action. Amongst the most commonplace of these are the field ordnance batteries. These artillery teams normally consist of 2 guns, each of which requires 3 men in order to move, load, aim, and fire the weapon. Malleus rocket launchers fire a rain of explosives that arc high over enemy positions, their projectiles emitting a terrifying whistle as they plummet down to detonate and saturate large areas of the battlefield with glowing shrapnel. Bombast field guns lob heavy shells packed with explosives over battlefield obstacles and into heretic gun positions or teeming swarms of Xenos. Heavy las cannons are used as direct fire anti-armor weapons. Their volleys are punching smoke holes in enemy tanks and felling lumbering monsters. All of these weapons have a deleterious effect on the enemy morale that is almost as impactful as the destructions of the shells, bolts, and beams inflicted. So, really good bit of information just about the heavy weapons. In particular, the field ordnance batteries are some of my favorite. I have a bunch of them in my army, and I use both the standard cannon and the rocket launchers, just depending on my opponent. Really good weapon. Unfortunately, they are now considered legends, but still, I like to use them. And since I don't play in official Games Workshop stores, most people don't have a problem with me using that kind of stuff. Anyway, some regiments, notably the siege regiments fielded by the Death Corps of Krieg, bring to battle even larger artillery pieces. These colossal engines of mass destruction can only be hauled into position with the use of tracked vehicles, heavy servitor units, or massive dray beasts. Some of these weapons hurl their gigantic shells for many miles to shatter fortifications, Others launch volleys of rockets with chemical nerve agents to flush troops out of dugouts and foxholes, or rain cluster munitions down upon opposing batteries of alien energy weapons. So, next topic, specialist arms. Some units, the elite veteran infantry of the soldiery tasked with sabotage, assassination, or clandestine operations, are issued with the more powerful more potent weapons. Elite troops such as the Tempestus Scions of the Militarum Tempestus, the Cadian Corsikans, and the Death Corps of Krieg's Grenadiers are often equipped with the hot shot lasgun, known by many soldiers as the Hellgun. Oh, this is actually what I was talking about earlier. That's cool. I didn't know if it was actually mentioned or not. These las weapons pack enough punch to burn through even the warped ceramite armor of a Chaos Space Marine, or the thick chitinous plate of a Tyranid warrior. They do, however, require specialized power packs that are extremely unreliable and drain swiftly. Some elite infantry circumvent this issue by using a backpack battery. Some elite infantry circumvent this issue by using a backpack battery connected to their weapon by a series of cables. This, of course, comes with the cost of reduced mobility, but a risk worth taking when extra firepower is paramount. Abhuman Ogryns often serve as bodyguards for officers or as disposable shock troopers. These hulking soldiers whose bulky physique or limited intellect preclude the use of more intricate technology, are equipped with a variety of simplistic yet deadly weapons. Ripper guns or automatic shotguns crafted specifically for the Ogryn and designed with durability and close-range lethality in mind. Often fitted with jagged saw blades and wielded as close combat weapons, Ripper guns also possess inbuilt burst limiters to stop their enthusiastic Ogryn bearers from gleefully expending their ammunition in mere seconds. The most belligerent and obstinate of the Ogryns are pressed into service as Bulgryns, specialist units equipped with thick, bulletproof slab shields and grenadier gauntlets. When wielded in combination, both make excellent tools for clearing trench lines. The slab shields form a wall behind which allied infantry may advance while the grenadier gauntlets launch fragmentation grenades into the midst of the enemy, exploding within the close quarter confines of the dugouts and trenches. These grenades pepper the enemies with lethal shards of shrapnel. So I just want to quickly explain what this weapon is, because, to put it simply, it is bloody awesome. It is essentially a melee weapon which drives, if you can imagine a stake driver, or the stake driver from Bloodborne, it's basically that, but it lodges a fragmentation grenade directly into the man that the Ogryn is fighting. So he literally shoves a fragmentation grenade into this guy's chest, and then it just explodes, which is unbelievable and just so cool. I'm not a big fan of the Ogryn, just because the Death Corps don't really use them that much, if at all. But that weapon is one of my favorites in the entire Astra Militarum arsenal. Anyway, let's continue. Given the sheer size of the Imperium and the number of regiments fighting in its armies, even the Department Militarum struggles to maintain an exact inventory of all of the weapons and war gear wielded by the Astra Militarum. It is likely that in the most distant reaches of the Imperium, even more ancient and esoteric weapons are fielded by the armies of humanity, each with its own benefits, drawbacks, and idiosyncrasies. After all, with heretics, traitors, Xenos closing in on all sides, mankind is forced to make use of every available weapon to ensure its survival. Really, really cool. So, next page. So here we have some of the different vehicles that are utilized by the Astra Militarum. So we will start off with one of my favorites, and that is the Manticore. The Manticore has a volatile machine spirit and requires careful coaxing in order to operate effectively. Despite all other quirks, these vehicles are highly valued by the Astra Militarum for their ability to unseat enemies from heavily fortified defensive positions. The Manticore's weapon systems contain complex targeting augers, gyroscopes, stabilizers, and predictive logic engines. This suite of equipment is utilized to calculate firing patterns for its bank of 4 Storm Eagle rockets. These are packed with cluster munitions that, when warhead detonates, are spread over a wide area to land within trenches and foxholes to shred the infantry within. Even each bomblet packs more than enough explosive to punch. Each bomblet packs more than enough explosives punch to shatter the armor of any enemy vehicle it may strike. Really, really good vehicle, both in terms of the lore and the actual game. Next up, we have my personal favorite vehicle in the entire Astra Militarum, and that is the Basilisk. So, Basilisk's overwhelming artillery fire is a hallmark of the Astra Militarum regiments. Towering artillery pieces across the battlefield is an onerous process. However, the Basilisk is a self-propelled assault gun capable of traversing tough terrain and laying down supportive fire far more swiftly than towed field ordnance. This enables Astra Militarum regiments to undertake fast-moving assaults without moving out of range of artillery support. Basilisks mount the devastating Earthshaker cannon with impressive range, of which it's matched by its destructive power of its payload. It is capable of obliterating entire platoons of infantry. These vehicles are also equipped with hull-mounted defense weaponry, ensuring that they are capable of repelling unexpected assaults from enemy infantry, long enough for support to arrive for the unit to retreat to a safer distance. So this is a artillery weapon, and I am all about artillery in my army. What it says here is that it is essentially a mobile version of the Earthshaker, and the Earthshaker is one of, if not the most powerful piece of artillery that the Militarum has. However, the Earthshaker is stationary. It has to have massive bits pounded into the ground with stakes in order for the recoil not to send the thing flying. So this is that, but on wheels, or I guess in this case treads. Really cool, and another reason I love them so much. Next up is the Sentinels. Sentinels are capable of moving swiftly across open ground, yet also possess the maneuverability and agility to traverse dense urban battlefields or dense equatorial jungles, rendering them incredibly versatile assets. This versatility allows them to perform multiple different roles in the myriad armies of the Astra Militarum. Lightly armored scout sentinels are often deployed to undertake reconnaissance duties or act as mobile observation posts for light artillery. Armored sentinels possess closed canopies and additional armor are designed to fulfill roles focused on frontline combat, such as supporting infantry advances with their array of heavy weapons. This said, even armored sentinels cannot stand toe-to-toe with enemy tanks, and therefore sentinel formations tend to utilize hit and fade tactics when combating such heavily armored foes. So yeah, the sentinels are really cool. They are essentially these bipedal scout and armored variants. They serve as both scout and active combat roles, with the armored being the active combat. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of them. They're not bad, I don't dislike them, but they're just not my favorite. I do have a couple of them, but I mainly use them just for the benefits that they provide for the for the infantry. Anyway, let's move on to this next page. So our next vehicle on the second page is the Valkyrie. Rugged and versatile, the Valkyrie primarily serves as a transport or ground attack aircraft, though it's also capable of intercepting enemy flyers. As airborne assets, Valkyries are operated by the Aeronautic Imperialis. I hope I said that right. A division of the Imperial Navy. However, these aircraft are often deployed for extended periods with the Astra, with the Imperial Ground Forces. Most notably, the Militarum Tempestus, whose Tempestus scions have made a bloody and effective art form of the Valkyrie combat drop, leaping from hovering Valkyrie gunships to descend on grav chutes and strike deep behind enemy lines. Having dropped off their cargo, Valkyrie gunships are capable of providing heavy fire support for the infantry below, hunting targets of opportunity and keeping the allies abreast of enemy troop movements. So the Valkyrie is a unit that I feel kind of conflicted about. I absolutely love its design and its concept in the lore and the world of 40k. However, personally, I am not a fan of it in the tabletop or for my army. Not because I dislike the Valkyrie specifically, but just because I don't really utilize air units at all in any of my armies. No real reason. I know at the making of this video, aircraft are fairly bad in the current meta, but it's not for any meta reasons. It's just I personally am not a fan of them. I'd rather have more ground tanks, and I'd rather have an extra basilisk than a Valkyrie. Next up is the backbone of the Astra Militarum armored division and the most versatile and well-known unit, and that is the Leman Russ battle tank. So, venerable yet reliable, the Leman Russ has served as the primary battle tank of the Astra Militarum for millennia, possessed of notoriously resilient armor and a belligerent machine spirit. I really like how it keeps saying belligerent machine spirit. The Leman Russ can weather a storm of enemy fire and emerge operational. The Leman Russ's turret is particularly versatile for a range of weapon systems to be fitted, including devastating anti-infantry weapons such as the Punisher Gatling Cannon, or armor-piercing anti-tank guns such as the Vanquisher battle cannon. Leman Russ tanks are ordinarily deployed in small squadrons with various patterns often fielded together to ensure complementary weapon loadouts and provide the unit with the tools the tools they require to take on a wide range of targets. The sight of a Leman Russ tank rolling into the battle is often enough to lift the spirits of a beleaguered force of Astra Militarum infantry. So yeah, this is the most robust and the most versatile tank in the Militarum. There are, I believe, 5 or 6 different variants of it, and all of them have a specific use. Some of them are anti-tank, some are anti-infantry, some are anti-elite infantry. My personal favorite is the Demolisher, which is essentially anti-everything, but the only drawback is that it has a extremely short barrel and has very short range, so you have to get quite close with it. But yeah, really cool, and I have so many of them. You guys will see in when I make my Krieg Army video. Trust me, I do mean I have a load of them. And our last unit is the Hellhound. Based on the same chassis as the ubiquitous Chimera armored transport, the Hellhound trades troop capacity for a series of Prometheum storage tanks, shield pump systems, and thermal containment units, which feed turret-mounted Melta Inferno or chem weapons in battle. The Hellhound rolls into the thick of the fighting and uses the Inferno cannons to unleash torrents of flaming Prometheum into the trenches and bunkers. One of the most feared variants of the Hellhound, often referred to by the Imperial Guard troops as the Banewolf, is fitted with a turret-mounted chem cannon. This lethal weapon projects gouts of corrosive gas that can dissolve organic material in seconds. Infantry unfortunate enough to be struck by such a weapon are at risk of being dissolved into bubbling pools of noxious ooze. So, like I said, it is a slight alteration on the Chimera. The Chimera is basically like the main troop transport, which does have some weapons, but it's mainly just light weapons for anti-infantry. Whereas the Hellhounds have chem weapons and flamethrowers on them. So they are incredibly good at taking out groups of infantry, while still also being able to transport a respectable amount of units. So it's a really good unit to have. You don't always have to have loads of them, even just one or two is good, but they are very, very good to use. Anyway, that is it for this section. So let us move on to the showcase. Some of the different unit types and how they are painted, their official names, some of their official roles, and stuff like that. So I'm not going to be spending too much time on this section. We're just going to go through it fairly quickly, but I thought that it is worth showing nonetheless. And we also have these really cool pictures up here of a diorama of a bunch of different Astra Militarum vehicles and infantry. For example, there's some Hellhounds, there is a Wyvern, I believe, and there are some Basilisks in the back fighting some, I believe those are heretics or some kind of chaos spawn. But yeah, let's just go ahead and dive right into it. Okay, so these are mainly just pictures of units with the names on them, so I won't be spending too much time on this, like I said. We're just going to go through this quickly. So starting on the far upper left, we have Ursula Creed. Now, she is not the best in battle, however, she does provide insane buffs to your party. I actually do have her, and I converted her into a Krieg unit. You guys will see that when I make my army video. Next up at the top, we have some veteran guardsmen of the Cadian regiment, and you can see that they have the Cadian armor on. They have like black armor with this tan undercoat. I really like their color scheme. Actually, the black and the tan looks really cool. And one of them appears to have a plasma pistol and a chainsword. On the bottom, we just have a standard commissar. That's what a non-Krieg commissar looks like. No mask or anything. And then we have some more veteran Cadian guardsmen. So same kind of color scheme. The guy in the middle isn't really that remarkable. However, the guy in the far right is like a banner bearer, and the banners give your troops morale when they're in a certain range of it. And over here we have Lord Solar. So Lord Solar is an extremely powerful unit, both in his ability to fight and his ability to buff nearby allies. So really good model to have. However, he is quite expensive and quite rare to find. And then here we have a diorama of some Krieg. These look like the new Krieg engineers, and I can't tell what they're fighting. It looks like some kind of chaos spawn. I might be wrong about that, but that's just what it looks like to me. Anyway, next page. Okay, so we are going to start with the units before we get into the art. Let me just zoom in on a little bit so you guys can see. So these are members of the newly released Krieg Command Squad. There used to be an old command squad. This is the new one, and I love them. I have one, and I think they are so cool. So first off, starting on the top left, we have the Lord Commissar. So he's the leader of the new command squad. You can see that he has a plasma pistol and has a gas mask because he is Krieg. However, as you can see, his commissary uniform is a little bit more embellished, seeing as he's a higher rank than your standard issue commissar. Pretty cool. And then over beside him we have a servo scribe. Interesting unit. I actually don't know much about this unit, so I'm not going to say too much on him. Then below him we have a few different units of the new command squad. So first off, so moving down, we have the medic. Now, I don't know why it says quartermaster, but this is the medic. That's what he's listed as online. So that's kind of strange. However, yeah, I wonder why they did that. His color scheme is very, I don't know, basic to me. Maybe that's just me with the all black. One thing about this unit that some people love, some people hate, is he is the only unit in the entire Krieg army that has part of his head showing. He doesn't have the full gas mask that the Krieg wear. He just has a gas mask on the front of his face. You can see the back of his head, you can see his ears, and you can see his hair, which was interesting. I actually really like this unit. I painted him very differently, so he looks a bit more like a medic. Oh, sorry, my one does at least. Next, we just have a veteran guardsman who is carrying a plasma pistol. Again, all these guys have the skull plated mask on them, and most people paint them white, myself included. I either go white or like a metallic silver. Next up, we have the Perfectus Militant. Again, part of the command squad. I did not know that is what he was called, but quite cool. So he has a kind of like a baton stick in one hand as well as a pistol in the other. Has a very similar hat to the commissar, so I wonder if he's just like a standard commissar. Anyway, let us continue. So down we have some of the new Krieg combat engineers, and I love these guys. I have loads of the old Krieg combat engineers, but these guys far and away outshine it. So we have one guy who is holding a pistol, a second guy with the engineer revolver shotgun. However, this one is in much better detail and is the size is a lot more accurate. Next, we have a guy with a pistol and a chain sword. I don't know why I keep saying chain axe. This is the remote mine here. And then here we have the Krieg combat engineer. Now, we briefly touched on this, I can't remember if it was part 1 or part 2, about how the combat engineers can send out kind of like explosive devices. This is one of them. So what the remote mine does is this guy uses it as essentially a remote control car, and its purpose is to drive up to enemy tanks or vehicles and explode, and that usually kills them. It's really good. The only downside is that you have to keep the pilot alive. If he dies, then we lose control of it, which kind of sucks, but at the same time, it's okay. And then here we have the new, or some of the new units. So this is the Krieg Heavy Weapons team. I really like it, however, I am not going to be buying it. So on the bottom, we have the Krieg Fire Coordinator, so he's on the Vox trying to coordinate where the stuff is going to land. Then we have the Krieg Heavy Weapons Gunner, so this is him here. The reason I'm not going to be buying is because he has a heavy stubber, which I already have multiple of. It's literally just a heavy stubber, except with 2 metal shields on the side and only 1 guy on the base instead of 2. So I don't want to buy a new unit that I already own, since I'm assuming they do the same thing. And then this guy here is on another version of the gun, except he has the heavy flamer. I will say having a heavy flamer turret does sound really cool, and that alone actually might get me to buy it. Anyway, for the artwork that we have here, let's see. So we just have some of the combat engineers kind of fighting off. They're also they're being encircled by some enemies, and yeah, I genuinely really like the new combat engineer. Out of all of the new Krieg models that came out at the start of this year, they are my favorite by far. Next up, so again, we're going with models first. So first off, we have the Bulgrin. Now, the Bulgrin in this, one of them has what looks to be like a club and a small shield, whereas the other one has one of those grenade launchers with a massive door shield. The way that grenade launcher works, it's not even a grenade launcher, it's a grenade melee weapon. So he essentially puts that to your chest, launches a grenade into your chest, and then you explode from the inside, which is incredible. But yeah, maybe it's just not for me. I'm not sure if these are meant to be Krieg units, because they do have gas masks. However, they also do have exposed arms and stuff, so I'm going to go ahead and say that they are not Krieg. Then on the bottom, we have some Tempestus Scions. So here we have 3 of them. We have one with a sniper, one with a plasma rifle, and then one with a chain sword. So I have some Tempestus Scions that I converted into Krieg. By the way, if you hear me talk about converting into Krieg, that just means taking their head off and then putting a Krieg head on, which is actually very simple, and sometimes you have to repaint the whole model, but that's no problem to me. Painting is half the fun, in my opinion. We have some more art here. So this is a hellhound down here. I actually can't make out what's going on in this picture. It's too dark. And then over here we have the Taurox. This looks like a standard Taurox versus a Taurox Prime. The Taurox is a transport vehicle. It also does have some offensive capabilities, but it's mainly to do with transport. Now, it can't transfer as many as the Chimera can, and it doesn't have as much firepower as the Chimera can. So you might be asking, why would someone buy this? Well, you're able to dismount, so you're able to get in, drive to your location, and get out all in the same turn. Whereas with the Chimera, you have to drive to your location, wait for your opponent's turn, then deploy. So this is better for rapid deployment where you need to get someone on the ground in a faraway location very, very fast. Next, we have a diorama showcasing some Imperial tanks. Looks really cool. Again, I can't make out who they're fighting. It looks maybe like Eldar or something, but maybe it's just because it's so late I can't make out anything. So here is another great piece. So we have some demons attacking some Krieg, and the Krieg are holding them off. Looks really, really good. I love these dioramas. I actually really want to, if I ever decide to stop playing Warhammer, I want to put my Krieg army into like a glass cabinet and make like a war display. Okay, so we are at the final area, data sheets. So this covers all of the currently available units to play in the Astra Militarum in Warhammer 10th edition. We also have this great picture here of the Imperial Guard having suffered severe casualties, but 2 men managed to survive, one pointing his gun up in the air. Actually, I think that might be a woman. She's pointing her gun up in the air, I apologize, with her sword, and this guy is planting the flag. I'm assuming that she is the sergeant or the watchmaster or something. But yeah, let's get right into the data sheets. Now, in terms of actually playing Warhammer, this is the most important information in the codexes, is finding out what how your units can actually perform. So just to speed things up, I'm not going to be going through each of their abilities. I am going to be going through their stats, as well as the little text box next to them. So, if you are new to Warhammer, you may be wondering, what are all of those symbols next to the characters, and what do they mean? Well, they are, for want of a better term, essentially their stats, and their stats range from a lot of things, so I will try and explain it as quickly and simply as possible. So the first stat is M, and M stands for movement. This one's pretty straightforward. It just dictates how far this model can move per turn. Really cool. Actually, it's not really cool. It's really just straightforward. So, you use a little tape measure and make sure that you move the right way. You don't actually have to move the full length. So, for example, Lord Solar can move 12 inches. But if you only want to move him, say, 8 inches, that's totally fine too. The next stat is T, which stands for toughness. The toughness is essentially almost like strength, but it isn't to do with like physical strength. It's to do with their wounds and how likely they are to take wounds and how they respond to said wounds. Next up is SV. That is armor save. Why they didn't go AS, I do not know, but it is the armor save. So this essentially just means that this is the armor save for the unit. Okay, so here we are at the spec sheet. Now, for actually playing Warhammer, this is the most important part of the book, as it tells you all of your character's abilities, their stats, their buffs, and so on and so forth. However, I will not be going through each and every single unit's abilities and weaknesses and all that stuff. I will just be saying their specs, I will just be saying their specs as well as reading the little text blurb next to them. Now, I'm also not going to be saying which of these characters I do or do not own, as I do want the Death Curve Krieg Army video I'm slowly but surely making to still have a little bit of surprise. So we start off with Lord Solar, who is an extremely powerful character, both in terms of his ability to buff enemies and his combat prowess. So he has an M of 12 inches, a T of 4, a SV of 3+, a W of 8, an LB of 6+, and an OC of 2. Now, if you are not familiar with what any of that means, I would just recommend going and looking it up, because I'm too tired to explain the whole thing right now. So, the text next to him says, it says, Arcadian Leontris wields entire armies of the Astra Militarum against apocalyptic invasions and sector-wide insurgencies. A war scholar and a master tactician, the Lord Solar bestrides the battlefield on his cybernetic stallion. Oh my god! Can you guys tell I'm half asleep right now? By the way, his horse's name is Constantin, leveling his blade at the face of the foes as he believes his orders. Really cool guy, really cool unit, and yeah. Only downside about him is 1, he is quite expensive, 2, he is quite rare to find in stores, and 3, he can be rather difficult to paint, but that just depends on your paint skill. I personally didn't have that much issue with him, but I'm just used to painting. So next up we have Ursula Creed, who we encountered earlier. So she has an M of 6 inches, a T of 3, an SV of 4+, a W of 4, an LG of 7+, and a DE of 1. So, Ursula Creed, the Lord Castellan of Castia is a forbidding and implacable strategist, and a symbol of the enduring indomitability of Cadia's armies. Ursula Creed's supreme generalship forges over long years has seen her lead numerous imperial armies to victory against the enemies that threaten the Imperium. So she is a very, very powerful woman. How she is in actually fighting, I'm not sure. I always just thought that she was someone who buffs enemies, buffs allies. Next up, we have the Cadian Castellan. So he has a M of 6 inches, a T of 3, an SV of 5+, a W of 4, an LD of 7+, and a DC of 1. Written down, it says, strategic senior officers often ranking as a captain or colonal. Cadian Castellans are authoritative leading the Fallen World's forces, bearing a panoply of armies and insignia that mark their high office. They wield weapons as skillfully as they do command the soldiers beneath them. So really, really cool. And I actually have something interesting about a Castellan, but I'm not saying what that is just yet. But this is the Cadian Castellan. So next up we have Cadian Command Squad. So we have an M of 6 inches, a T of 3, an SV of 5+, a W of 3, an LD of 7+, and a DC of 1. So really interesting. He looks very, very rough. Cadian officers are experienced leaders, trained to be the best. They expect no less from the troops. They are as inspiring as the standard carried in the wake, and as motivated as the orders issued via their Vox operators. So this guy is obviously beloved by his squad. This is actually my first time seeing the new Cadian Command Squad, and while it's cool, I like that he has a power fist. But yeah, let us continue. So next up we have the Krieg Command Squad. I'm assuming that this is the new Command Squad. So we have two different sets of specs. So we'll start off with the Lord Commissar. So the Commissar has 6M, 3T, 5+ SV, 3W, 6+ LD, and 1 OC. And for the veteran guardsmen, who I'm assuming are just the rest of the people in his entourage, they have a 6M, a 3T, a 5+ SV, a 1W, a 7+ LD, and a 1 OC. So it says, the Death Corps of Krieg Officer Corps are brave, bordering on reckless. Their casualty rates are such that it is not uncommon for a representative of the office perfectus, most commonly a high-ranking commissar, to step into the place and take command, ably assisted by a retinue of veteran and junior officers. So quite cool. So next up we have Lord Marshal Dreer, and I think he might be my favorite model out of the new Krieg units. I know I said that about the combat engineers, but just as far as a single unit go, Dreer is by far my favorite. So he has an M of 10, he has a T of 4, an SV of 4+, a W of 6, an LG of 7, and an OC of 2. So it says beside him, as it is traditional in the armies of Krieg, Lord Marshal Vernon Dreer leads from the front. Despite his lofty rank, often to the horror of his superiors. That's so funny that they're all horrified that this guy's leading from the front despite being a Lord Marshal. That he and his loyal Krieg steed horse emerged from so many battles alive and victorious, speaks to his skill as both a commander and a cavalry soldier. So he's another one of those units that can provide buffs in the form of morale to his troops, as well as being a dangerous unit in combat. So our next unit is the Katachan Command Squad. And just before we get into him, I probably should have said this earlier when I was talking about the Castellan. The Castellan can only apply buffs to Cadian units. However, what I do and what most people do is they run their Death Corps of Krieg Grenadiers as Karskin proxies, and the Karskin are Cadian. So you are technically able to use a Cadian Castellan to buff your Grenadiers, and since they are the elite troops, that just means it is even better. So beside him it says, Catachan officers surround themselves with only the most battle-hardened veterans, for they are the only, for only they can be trusted to bear the regiment's battle standard to war. Catachan command squads fight with the same aggression as the fellow soldiers, putting themselves in harm's way in order to inspire their troops. So very similar to the Krieg officers and commanders. Next up we have Sly Marlborough. Sly Marlborough is a very famous character, and he is like the poster boy of the Catachan jungle fighters. He's essentially like the main unit that you want to have in a Catachan army. So he has a M of 6, he has a T of 3, an SV of 5+, a W of 4, an LB of 7+, and an OC of 1. Now, let's see what it says beside him. So it says, Sly Marlborough is a one-man army. He operates alone, striking from ambush before disappearing back into the shadows. A legendary soldier, Marlborough has gutted Xeno's horrors and slit the throats of traitors beyond count with his envenomed blade, and the fire hails of poison shards from his ripper pistol. That is really cool. So he's like made his pistol out of parts of enemies. I always love that in media, especially like in fantasy and games where people make guns out of the remains of their enemies. Always cool. So next we have a Leman Russ commander. So he has a movement of 10 inches, a T of 11, a SV at 2+, a W of 13, an LD of 7+, and an OC of 3. I really like this unit, especially the Krieg variants. It's just so cool having someone popping out of the hatch of your tank. So it says, the venerable Leman Russ makes an excellent command tank. Many officers choose these reliable vehicles, broadcasting orders to other war engines, and when necessary, emerging from their cupola to bellow orders and provide a visible symbol of imperial power. Yeah, really cool. The tank commanders kind of like boost the morale and stuff of other tank drivers near them. Really cool. Next is very similar, and that is the Rogel Dorn commander. So he has a W of 10 inches, a T of 12, an SV of 2+, a W of 18, an ED of 7+, an LD of 7+, and an OC of 5. Now again, very similar in appearance to the Leman Russ tank commander. So tank commanders are given a degree of freedom to choose their preferred command vehicle. Some opt for the might of the Rogel Dawn, making targets issuing precise commands to turret and sponson gunners, and providing an example of efficiency and combat prowess to the subordinates in their charge. Really, really cool. So very similar to the Riemann Russ. They basically essentially do the same thing, but just for different tanks. So next up we have Gaunt's Ghosts, and again there are two different stats for two different characters, or one character and then a bunch of characters. So Ibram Gaunt himself has a M of 6 inches, a T of 3, an SV of 4+, a W of 3, an LD of 6+, and an OC of 1. And then as for a 10th Ghost, we also have a M of 6 inches, a T of 3, a SV of 5+, a W of 2, an LD of 7+, and a 0C of 1. So it says, Colonel Commissar Ibram Gaunt combines the position of a feared. So it says, Colonel Commissar Ibram Gaunt combines the positions of a feared political officer and the regiment commander of the 10th First and Only, joined by the regiment's stealthily and deadly officers and soldiers. Those known as Gaunt's Ghosts are Gaunt's infamous raids, secretive missions, and unlikely victories have cemented his legend. Really, really cool guy. Yeah, really, I do really like Gaunt's Ghost. I'm surprised that he's still playable, seeing as how he's dead, because I remember when I wanted to buy the Sanguinius miniature for my Blood Angels, and I was told that, I can't use him because he's dead. But apparently you can still use Gaunt's Ghosts, even though Gaunt is dead. So anyway, next up. So next we have the Militarum Tempestus Command Squad. So we have, again, two different lists. So the Tempestus Scion has a M of 6 inches, a T of 3, an SV of 4+, a W of 1, and an LD of 7+, and a OC of 1. And then the Tempestus Prime also has a M of 6 inches, a T of 3, a SV of 4+, a W of 3, so I don't know why I can't see, an LD of 7+, and an OC of 1. So let's see what it has to say. Led by driven officers known as Tempestus. Led by driven officers known as Tempestus Primes, the command squad of the Militarum Tempestus compromised veteran Tempestus Scions. These specialists guard and support the Tempesta prime, while the officers are marshals. The officer marshals the elite soldiers into the perfect position for the mission at heart. Really, really cool. I do really like the Tempestus Scions. They are probably one of my favorite non-Krieg units. But yeah, let's continue. So next we have just a standard Commissar. So his stats go as followed: M 6 inches, T3, SV 5 plus, W3, LD 6 plus, and OC 1. So let's see what it says about our standard Commissar. It actually says quite a lot, surprisingly. Commissars are ruthless officers charged with maintaining the morale, discipline, and the fighting spirit of their regiment, with the power to summarily execute any soldier or officer found wanting. They are feared, brooding figures. The devotion to the Imperium is without doubt, and they fight with fanatic bravery. Usually they fight with fanatic bravery, or sometimes they just, tuck tail and run. Really, really cool. So next up, we have our Cadian Shock Trooper. So we have him here with a M of 6 inches, a T of 3, a SV of 5 plus, a W of 1, an LD of 7 plus, and a 0C of 2. Also, I just want to point out that the armor scheme on the Cadian is really nice. The extremely dark green paired with the tan with a little bit of crimson accents looks really nice. That was a very, very good paint job. Anyway, on to his information. So, Bone Soldiers, the shock troopers of Cadia, have trained their entire lives for military service. When the Astra Militarum decodes of rigorous firing drills, having forged them into an expert sharpshooter, skilled in both dagger defense and a storming assault, Cadian shock troopers are held by many to be the ideal soldier, and that's fairly true in the Warhammer universe. People see that the Cadians are just built different, for want of a better term. Now, there's also some units below our Cadian. So starting from the left, top left, we have a shock trooper with a las gun. I don't know what happened to that man's face. It looks like he's wearing a tinfoil hat or something. Next, we have a shock trooper with a flamer. Looks really cool, but he does lose points for wearing what looks like a hockey mask. Then we have a shock trooper sergeant with a las pistol and a chainsword. Then we have shock trooper sergeant. Who else is there? Yeah, I think that's it. The others don't have any text bubbles next to them, but they are all still Cadians. Anyway, let us move on. So next up we have the Death Corps of Krieg, and this one we are going to be going full on into the specs. And by the way, we are only going to be checking out the data sheets for the infantry units. We will not be going into all of the vehicles, as one, there are far, far too many, and yeah, I just prefer just to keep it to the infantry, since personally I find them more interesting. So next up we have the Catachan Jungle Fighter. So we have a M of 6 inches, a T of 3, an SV of 5+, a W of 1, an LD of 7+, and an OC of 2. As for the text, it says, "These heavily muscled soldiers are drawn from the warrior people who survive on the most infamous of death worlds, skilled in deadly close combat, fighting with the fiercest of beasts amidst hazardous terrain. Jungle fighters are also skilled in infiltrating and tracking, adept at luring their prey to their fiendish traps." That, low-key, actually sounds pretty terrifying. Next up is one I've actually been looking forward to seeing, and that is the car skin. So the car skin has a M of 6 inches, a T of 3, an SV of 4+, a W of 1, an LB of 7+, and an OC of 1. And like I said, car skin are the elite special forces of the Cadian military. So it says, amongst the lauded regiments of Cadia, the Kaskin are the elite of the elite. These special operations bear high-powered, hot-shot lasguns and wear thick, compact armor. And are the equals and superiors of any unaugmented human warriors. Quite true, if I do have to admit. Then next we have the Krieg Combat Engineer. So this is the new Krieg Combat Engineer. So he has a W of 6 inches, a T of 3, an SV of 4, a W of 1, an LD of 7+, and an OC of 1. So it says here, the Engineer Corps of Krieg are renowned for their skills as demolition experts, sappers, and close-quarters trench fighters. It is their task to accompany the first waves of the Death Corps assault charge, clearing razor wire and defusing mines before bringing their shotguns and trench clubs to bear upon the enemy. Now, this unit can wield a multitude of weapons. So he can wield an auto pistol, a bolt pistol, a combat shotgun, a flamer, a hand flamer, and a plasma pistol and an overcharged plasma pistol. And for melee, we have a chainsword, close quarter weapon, power weapon, and trench club. Really, really nice. So abilities, Grenadiers. Once per turn, you can target this unit with the grenade stratagem for OCP. War gear abilities, remote mine. Once per battle, at the start of your shooting phase, you can select one enemy unit within 12 inches of the bearer and roll 1d6 on a 3+. That enemy unit suffers d6 mortal wounds or d3 plus 3 mortal wounds instead if it was a vehicle or a fortification unit. And the other one is Designer's Note. Place a remote mine next to the unit, removing it once this ability has been used. Really cool. I'm glad to see that this unit actually does have some really nice abilities. Okay, let's continue. Okay, Tempestus Scions. So, for W 6 inches, T3, SV 4+, W1, LD 7+, OC 1. It says Tempestus Scions are elite soldiers. Are elite soldiers well trained in numerous combat styles, equipped with the highest standard and protective by reinforcement carapace, primed for a wide variety of specialist missions. The common armament is an armor-piercing hut fitted with an advanced sights. Now this unit can use a lot of weapons. Bolt pistol, flamer, grenade launcher, hot shot, las gun, hot shot pistol, hot shot volley gun, melter, plasma gun, and plasma pistol. Melee is chainsword and power fist, power weapon, and all that. Abilities. Stormtrooper. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack, re-roll a wound. If the target of the attack is an enemy unit within range of an objective marker, you can re-roll the wound instead. And he also has the Vox caster ability. Now, I was trying not to say this just because I was saving it for the surprise when I did my army video, but I actually have a bunch of Tempestus Scions who I converted into Krieg, so that's why I'm interested in them. So down here we have some more examples. So on our left we have a Tempesta Aquilon with a hot shot. These are all Aquilons, sorry. This, I don't know why it says Scion, but it gives me Aquilon. What about over here? Okay, so here we have the Krieg Heavy Weapon Squad, which is one of the new units. So they have M 4 inches, T3, SV4+, W2, LG 7+, and 1 OC for the heavy weapons gunner. For the fire coordinator, we have 6 inches M, T3, SV5+, W1, LD 7+, and OC1. Now, what does it say about him? Death Corps heavy weapons squads are deploying to support infantry assaults, farming overlapping fields of fire to pin down the enemy and enable waves of infantry to advance. Fire coordinator directs the gunner under the command to ensure they keep up the pursuing rate. He also has the ability Final Duty. While this unit contains a fire coordinate, each time a heavy weapon gunner model is destroyed, roll 1d6 on 3+, do not remove it from your play. The destroyed model can shoot after the attacking model's unit has finished its attack and is then removed from play. Interesting, that actually seems like a pretty cool ability. And then below that we have a couple pictures of some of the units. So we have the fire coordinator here. So this is the guy kind of calling in the Vox stuff. We have the heavy gunner with the twin stubber. Again, like I said, I already have a twin stubber, that's why I didn't buy this. Heavy weapons team with the heavy las cannon. Again, have a heavy las cannon. I have 3 of them, don't need it. This one is heavy weapons gunner with a Krieg heavy flamer. That one does look interesting. I might get that one. But yeah, really cool nonetheless. Okay, next up, Krieg artillery team. So we have 3 inches M, T7 SV3+, W10, LD7+, and OC3. Special abilities: if your shooting phase after this model has shot, if one or more of these attacks made an indirect fire weapon score a hit against an enemy unit, that unit must take a battle shock test. If an infiltrator unit is hit by one of the attacks made by the multiple rocket launchers, they must subtract 1 from their battle shock test when doing so. That's a really good ability. So the little bit of text says, the Astra Militarum makes use of all manner of artillery pieces to annihilate the foe from extreme range. The various ammunitions hurled by these towed weapons are capable of eliminating entire squads of infantry, cracking open reinforced bunkers and laying waste to the armored convoys. That goes so hard. Okay, next up we have the Field Ordnance Battery. So, M 3 inches, T5, SV 4+, W6, LG 7+, OC 2. Special ability: rearm, reload, fire. While this unit is being affected by an order, provided it remembered stationary this turn, all heavy weapon equipped by this model in this unit have the sustained hits 1 ability. As for the bit of text, it says, amongst the larger portable weapons fielded by the Astra Militarum are those crewed by ordnance teams. From bombast field guns that fire heavy shells indirectly to multiple warheads of the malicious rocket launcher of the searing energy lances unleashed by heavy las cannons. Such batteries are a powerful asset. Very, very cool. Next up, we have the Attilan Rough Riders. So, they are M 6 inches, T3, SV5, W2, LD 7+, and OC2. It says, while massed infantry can overwhelm the foe, it often falls to the heavy weapon squads to deliver the killing blow. These teams of gun crews can swiftly set up their mobile heavy weapons. They bolster battle lines and provide close fire support with adaptable loadouts of precise and indiscriminate firepower. Now, I'm not saying why, but when I post my video of my Death Corps of Krieg army, you will see why I'm paying such close attention all the time to the Rough Riders. And last but not least, we have the Death Corps of Krieg Death Riders. So they have M 10 inches, T4, SV4+, W2, LG 7+, and OC1. Their abilities are Screening Line. Once per turn, when an enemy unit ends a normal advance, when an enemy unit ends a normal, advance, or fall back move within a 9-inch of this unit, if the unit is not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, it can handle a normal move up to 6 inches. And the text says, to ascend into the ranks of the Death Riders is a great honor for any soldier of the Krieg. Astride their genetically enhanced Krieg steeds, these bold cavalry riders thunder across no man's land with lances leveled and sabers drawn and crash into the foe, scattering infantry and creating gaps in the enemy line for the infantry and the armor to exploit. Really cool. So that, everyone, is going to be it for the Warhammer 40k Astra Militarum 10th edition Codex. Thank you so much for watching. I can't do my usual intro just because my phone is at 3% and it's about to die. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making this. This is probably the most fun I've had making a video in a while. The one question I will ask is, what codex would you guys like to see me do next? I have the 10th edition Sororitas, Custodes, Mechanicus, and Blood Angels. So let me know in the comments and I'll be sure to do that one next. Anyway, so thank you again for watching. I hope you enjoy this and stay tuned for my Deathcore of Krieg Army showcase. My name has been Crimson, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good evening.